Hi, Dyslexic Genius here. I'm putting together an Amberola A-1 for a customer, and I'm going to show you how to really upgrade on the spring barrels. We're going to get to this, but I'm going to use the ratchet side. All you need is a file, sandpaper, 600 grit, brass punch that has a flat end, like that. I machined off my brass punch like that. And I did a few upgrades. The first upgrade I did was on early Victors. They have brass inserts in the arbor for the spring barrels. This is the center arbor that hooks onto the spring. So what I did was I polished out the end of this and made oilized bronze bushings for both sides. So when it goes onto the shaft, it goes through the spring barrels. This comes in here like this, and this doesn't wiggle. Because if this wiggling, then the spring barrel's wobbling. And then you want to come in, put the shaft in, and make sure it'll have a little bit of play, but you don't want a lot of wiggling in here. You want to flex on the inside of the hole. You want to polish this out, and especially this edge right here, because that runs up against the casting. So what's critical on these is the inside. You can see where I've polished all this out, and I've polished this edge. And you remember I just said about the arbor, I polished this. This runs on that, on the inside. So you want this smooth. A lot of times they are beat up from the, you can see the casting, roughness in the casting, that's normal. You can see the chipping. So I came in here, chucked it in the lathe, and I polished this out with 320. And this indentation like this, you see how it has a taper to it? When you run the shaft through, it'll hit like this, then it runs up and goes like that. And those are the few things that I did. So what we want to do is we want to insert the new pins, put the ratchet on, this piece here, and the ratchet gear, and the grease hole. You want to make sure that this hole here is cleaned out and you have flex tone in here. The first thing you want to do is you want to check for any burrs. I'm always checking for burrs. You just take your ruler and just drag along the edge like this, turning it, and you go, you know, if you feel a little something, or you can see where they beat on it right in here, so you might have a little burr there. All you do is take a file with 600, move it to the edge right here of the file, and you just come in here and just hit a little, and that'll take off any burrs you have. Now, how do we do this? First, we want to take this gear and the ratchet part. You want to put on a flat surface, 600. You want to smooth it out. Like that. Same thing with the gear. We want a smooth surface. Take a towel, wipe those off. And why am I doing this? When I took the machine apart, we had rust in here, and I put it in a vapor rust to clean it up. Now, we don't want this to sit in the motor, all hooked together, onto the spring barrel, and start rusting again. So what we're going to do, we're just going to add a little drop of sewing machine oil, like that, like that. Now, when you put the ratchet paw in, you see the teeth right here; those point up, and you just give it a spin. We got a little oil in there. That's all moved around. Now, what you do is this is where the pin goes. You see we have some oil. This is a pin hole. We're going to do the same thing to this gear. We'll run those two together. There we go. Now, these are an 832 screws. So you're going to put the screw in.
So you got big holes and little holes.
I have big holes and little holes, and you're going to put one screw in. If the screw starts to go in and you feel a little tightness or it's kind of binding, you want to get a tap and tap out the threads that are in here. It's real easy. I call it chasing the threads. You got that? The pins that hold these in place have two sides. You have a rounded side like this, and then you have a flat side like this. We're going to put the rounded end in first. That'll go in here like this. Now this is flat because I have a flat area here. You're going to turn it around. Make sure you find the rounded edge. There's the rounded edge. If you beat it with a hammer like this, boom, 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 you might have a tendency to burr out the top here or mushroom it a little. This is why we're using a brass punch. If you ever wanted to know how to get the pins out, you just take the spring barrel like this. You know that the screws go here. You just stick a small punch in here and you go tappy tappy and I'll push it right out for you. Real easy. Now, because this is never going to come apart again probably ever, I hope, we're going to take the greasing hole. They had a tool that went in here and re-greased the springs. That's this little special nut. Just going to give it a little oil. Leaving that screw in. Just give it a drop down the edge. Goes in. You can see I re-blued this and that. You want to get these pretty snug. And you want to use the right size blade of the screwdriver for that slot because you don't want to do all this work and come in here and then have it flare out and look like Uncle Bubba tried to put it all together. And that's all there is to putting spring barrels in like this, fixing all this. And that's how you do 2 A-1 spring barrels. Now we have to put it together and put the springs in, and that's my tip for the day.